It was a shock. As I drove up the driveway, Maddie started sobbing and gasping beside me in the car. I had to stop halfway. I didn't want to run over Balthasar's head. He was lying on his side, staring at me with an unblinking gaze. It occurred to me that I'd never really noticed his eyes before, since he always looked down at baby Jesus. Matty loved decorating, any holiday under any pretext. I'd been embarrassed more than once when I came home on my birthday or anniversary to find the yard full of streamers and banners announcing the occasion to the whole world. Any excuse. Groundhog Day, Street Swithin's Day, the Anglo-Saxon Bishop of Winchester, and later the patron saint of Winchester Cathedral. Heck, if she could find banners, even a random Tuesday would be reason enough to celebrate. But Halloween and Christmas were her decorating nirvanas. I couldn't park in the garage because of how much space her decorations took up. I didn't like it, but it was her thing, and it made her happy. That's how the boxes of decorations, stacked floor to ceiling, came to fill the garage, most of them Christmas-themed. Each year, there were more and more of them. This year, a light-sized nativity scene appeared, complete with the three wise men, a donkey, a sheep, and a glowing angel hovering over the parents and baby Jesus. From the roof came Santa Claus's greetings, accompanied by his sleigh and 8 reindeer, while snowmen and elves frolicked on the lawn. Every tree and bush was adorned with decorations and lights, blinking in sync with those on the eaves and around the windows of the house. Above the porch hung a large banner that read, "Merry Christmas." To me, it all seemed a bit garish and over the top. But I realized, first, that my opinion didn't matter, and second, that it wasn't worth voicing it unless I was prepared to endure a frosty silence for the rest of the day and night. But as I've said, Maddie loved it. She was proud of it, and her greatest achievement, as she saw it, wasn't, in my opinion, our wonderful children, but the time when our house, or rather, its decorations, made the front page of the local paper with a shoestring budget feature. Each year, she tried to outdo herself, hoping to replicate that moment of glory. But this year, it wouldn't be the way Maddie wanted. We'd probably make the papers, but only as victims of mass vandalism. That Merry Christmas banner had been torn down and apparently trampled. The nativity scene looked like it had been attacked with an axe. A decapitated Balthasar was the least of the damage. The other figures were shattered beyond recognition, like Humpty Dumpty. The lights on the house had been ripped down and piled into a bonfire, ignited by Santa Claus's hands. It seemed there had even been roasted venison, as the reindeer were nowhere to be found. We lived at the end of a long, empty cul-de-sac with only 5 neighbors. Our house was at the very end of the winding road, but over the years, it had become a must-see stop on Christmas-like tours. Our home, isolated in the dark, would appear to drivers as they rounded the curve of the street on a pitch-black night. It shone in all the dazzling splendor Maddie had envisioned. People loved it. How the vandals found the time for such thorough destruction, and how they knew we wouldn't be home that evening are questions I'd struggle to answer. It was clear the vandals had plenty of time to practice their destruction. I realized this when I saw that the decorations on the trees had been shot at with BB pellets. Considering there were over 100 decorations, this must have taken a while. Judging by the number of BBs scattered on the lawn and the marks from missed shots on the windows, it was obvious they'd used automatic or rapid-fire BB guns, a type of pneumatic weapon designed to shoot metal spherical projectiles, called BBs. I found one decoration they had missed. Otherwise, the destruction was complete. Maddie was on her knees by the nativity scene while I called the police. Why? Why would someone do this? Why did they do this to me? I picked her up in my arms and carried her into the house, making her leave behind the remains of baby Jesus, which she had been clutching to her chest. I sat her down with a cup of hot tea while we waited for the police to arrive. The police officers had the same questions I did. Considering how much time the destruction must have taken and the fact that the vandals would have had to climb onto our roof to destroy Santa, how could they guarantee they had enough time to carry out such complete devastation? And most importantly, who knew we wouldn't be home that evening? I explained that our daughters had gone on a ski trip, and we had attended my company's Christmas party in the ballroom of the Pierpont Hotel. It was a big event, but apart from my colleagues and our daughters, I hadn't told anyone about our plans for the evening. The officer looked at my wife with the same question in his eyes, but Maddie, still heartbroken, could only shake her head. The patrolman's partner returned after questioning our neighbors and reported that a large van had been parked on our street for a long time that evening. It had a magnetic sign advertising a catering company, a service providing meals for various events, from office lunches to banquet service, which, as further investigation revealed, was fake. A neighbor who saw it assumed we were preparing for a party and didn't think much of it. Neither the make of the van nor its license plate was remembered. The officer expressed his sympathy, but explained that there wasn't enough evidence to take any action beyond filing a report in case we wanted to file an insurance claim. As he was about to leave, flashes illuminated the front windows. It turned out the local press had arrived to capture the damage. Maddie's decorations and our house would once again make the papers. The evening had started so promisingly. Maddie had been in a wonderful mood, flirty and affectionate, as she usually was. For the past year, though, we've been stuck in a rut. Irritable and sullen, she had been like living with a porcupine. Any attempt to touch her resulted in getting hurt. I couldn't figure out what I might have done wrong, but something had knocked our relationship off track. Maddie was only 39, but I thought she might be experiencing early menopause. Wanting to keep all my body parts intact, I resisted the urge to bring it up with her, but it remained my best guess. I decided to give her the space she might need to adjust to whatever changes she was going through. In June, when that space included her request to move into the guest room, I swallowed my anger and agreed to give her the master bedroom. I felt her slipping away but tried to remain patient and understanding. The weekend had started off well. Setting up all the decorations, including the new full-sized and expensive nativity scene as this year's edition, seemed to put Maddie in an excellent mood. My wife was back, the happy, flirty woman I had once married. As she got ready for my company's party, she even paused to kiss me, a kiss that promised something more later that evening. She batted her eyelashes and suggested I move my toiletries back into the master bathroom. At the corporate party, Maddie danced like she was 20, graceful, affectionate, radiant with beauty and the love she seemed to show for me. It stunned me. After a year of coldness and harsh treatment, suddenly, my loving wife was back in my arms. Loving me. Only me. I couldn't understand what had happened. It felt like an emotional shock. After a whole year of misery, I was finally ready to move on. And now this sudden change of mood. Could it be that she had started hormonal therapy? Or was she on medication? Normally, Maddie emptied the trash bins around the house, but in early October, while she was out shopping for a new nativity scene, I noticed a full trash bin in the bathroom by the hall. I picked up a garbage bag and went around the house, emptying the bins to save her the trouble. When I entered the master bathroom for the first time in almost 4 months and emptied the trash bin, it became clear that Maddie wasn't going through menopause. She was clearly menstruating. While looking around the bathroom, I discovered round packs of birth control pills in her drawer by the sink. 3 packs, with only 1 pill left in the top pack. The prescription had been issued in the last week of January. I figured this must have been her third 3-month supply. 9 months of birth control. 9 months since she pushed me away. 5 months since she moved out of our bedroom. 9 months of patient understanding. 9 months of celibacy while my wife, who had always avoided contraceptives, suddenly found them necessary. 9 months. Well, at least it wasn't 9 months of pregnancy. How could I have been so wrong? I slammed my hand against the sink in anger and frustration. How could Maddie do this to me? I looked at myself in the mirror and forced myself to calm down. Could my wife be seeing someone else? If so, why was she so angry with me when she was the one who might be unfaithful? I needed to think this through carefully after finishing with the trash. I sat down at my computer, I had questions that needed answers. Question 1. Can a woman have periods during menopause? Answer: no. However, I discovered that menopause is officially diagnosed after a woman has gone 12 full months without a period. So that wasn't the answer. Maybe she was skipping months, which could resemble menopause, but not entirely. She might be in what's called perimenopause. Question 2. Can birth control be used to regulate or ease menopause symptoms? Yes, birth control pills can help manage some symptoms of menopause and perimenopause, but they should not be used as a replacement for hormone replacement therapy, HRT. So what's going on? After digging around on the internet, I found information about perimenopause. Reviewing the symptoms, I found many that fit. Mood changes, definitely. She was never this much of a jerk before. Changes in sexual desire. Oh, absolutely. Problems with concentration or memory. Not that I noticed. She remembered every single thing I ever did wrong. Headaches. I had them. Not sure about her. Night sweats. Maybe that's why she moved out of bed. Could be. Hot flashes. Only flashes of anger. Draining sensitive areas after a year. How would I know? Sleep problems. Possibly. Then again, maybe that's why she moved out of the bedroom. I wanted to scream. I just needed answers, but the questions kept piling up. I decided I'd wait a little longer, but now I'd be paying closer attention. My wife had always been a homemaker, ever since the kids were born. Now that they were in school and fairly independent, her time was more or less her own. Twice a week, she hired a housekeeper, and 2 or 3 times a week, we ordered takeout. The kids loved pizza and Mexican food, while Maddie and I enjoyed Indian, Thai, and Chinese. On other days, she cooked dinner. Except for Saturdays, we each made our own breakfasts and typically prepared our own lunches, so she had plenty of free time. The biggest and most time-consuming tasks she handled herself were the holiday decorations. Honestly, in my opinion, way too many holiday decorations, but it mattered to her. Over the years, it became not only a significant investment of her time, but also a serious financial one. Animatronics, mechanical figures of people, animals, or other creatures controlled either manually or via remote control, dominated her Halloween displays, and Santa and his helpers made noise all night until the timers turned them off. And that's not even mentioning the flashing hearts for Valentine's Day, hopping bunnies for Easter, or the constant fireworks-like lights that sparkled throughout June until the 4th of July. We lived in a secluded spot at the end of a long cul-de-sac. No one saw most of her displays except for those who knew about them and visited during Halloween or Christmas. I'll admit, she had her fans for those 2 holidays, but for the others, we certainly didn't need any crowd control. Yet, every year, more decorations were added for every holiday. I don't want to ramble. The point is, I realized just how much free time my wife had now that the kids were grown that I started coming home at odd times during the day. Not too often. My job doesn't allow me to leave the office frequently. My presence is necessary. But I left often enough to realize that Maddie wasn't spending her time at home. When asked, her porcupine-like demeanor practically flew across the room at me with angry retorts. My casual questions were taken as interrogations. Besides, she always had a reason for her absence. Almost always, she claimed she was out looking for new decorations that I thought were too much for me. I needed help. I turned to a private detective, deciding I could use our vacation funds since Maddie didn't seem interested in taking a trip. If someone followed her for, say, a week, I'd surely find out what was going on. But when I spoke with the detective agency, they informed me that surveillance would cost $150 an hour, plus any additional expenses, travel, parking, etc., considering that Maddie was home alone for at least 8 hours a day. That came out to $1,200 a day and $6,000 for a 5-day week, Monday through Friday. Our vacation fund couldn't possibly cover that. I thought about asking a friend or neighbor to keep an eye on my wife for me. I mulled it over for about 60 seconds before discarding the idea. First, there's the problem of finding a friend you trust who also has the time to follow someone. All my friends who don't work are unreliable. Great guys as friends, but definitely not someone you'd hire, and I wouldn't trust them with their own spouse, let alone mine. And the friends I would trust all have jobs and can't spare the time to follow my wife, just in case she's seeing someone else. A week before Maddie's Christmas party, her computer broke. Somehow, I just knew this was going to be my fault because, of course, I was the one who'd bought it for her. But she was incredibly sweet to me, asking if I could fix it. She was almost loving. When Maddie left for her gym, I agreed to take a look. It didn't take long to discover that her rootkit virus had wiped out several critical boot track files. I removed the malware, restored the missing files, and the computer booted up immediately. Out of curiosity, I clicked on her email. I know Maddie well enough to know she doesn't have the patience to log in and out every time she wants to check her messages. Sure enough, her inbox opened right away. The most recent emails were all I needed to see for my heart to break. Please, please, please don't do this. Read the subject of the latest email from Jimmy Love 69. The next three were also from Jimmy Love 69. I love you. Don't leave me. You don't love him. And the oldest. What do you mean? It's over. I didn't even need to read the emails. I already understood everything. She had left me. And now she was leaving her partner, Jimmy Love 69. She had someone new lined up. Later, I thought I should have gone further back and checked her sent emails to see what she had said to Jimmy Love 69, and maybe figure out who she had moved on to. But I was so crushed that I just shut the computer off. I had loved my wife unconditionally. I had waited an entire year like a confused husband, while she had who knows how many partners. Was Jimmy the first, the fifth, or the 50th? Did it even matter to me? I couldn't breathe, and I couldn't stop the tears. All I could do was start planning my exit. Maddie didn't make it easy for me. I think I must have let my decision to leave slip because suddenly she became a concerned wife again. I ignored her hints about returning to our bedroom, claiming I was coming down with something. My excuses mirrored hers from when she wasn't feeling well, but aside from a disappointed look, she didn't push me to return to her bed. And God knows, at that moment, I had no interest in the remnants of our broken intimacy. When the police left, Maddie turned to me again and asked, "Why would someone do this to me?" I took a sip of tea and, staring into the cup, casually asked in return, "Do you think it was Jimmy?" The quiet sobbing stopped, and when I looked up, Maddie was staring at me, wide-eyed and filled with fear. You know about Jimmy." "Yes, I know. He emailed me everything about your grand love affair," I said, watching the steam rise from my cup. "He wouldn't do that to me. He loved me," Maddie said, wiping her nose with a tissue. Then she started, "Honey, he was a mistake." I thought, it doesn't matter. A mistake. You thought you were in love. It doesn't matter. It is what it is, I said grimly. But he clearly didn't feel much love when he wrote to me about your big romance. And what did you do? Dump him for some other person. I told him it was over. I told him. So you broke his heart. And now he wants to hurt you in return. I said, "That's what heartbroken people do. They get angry and hit you where it hurts." I stood up and headed toward the garage. "That's why I think Jimmy did this. In some twisted way, he probably thinks he can win you back." "Where are you going?" "Jimmy and I. We're over. It's done. I promise," Maddie said, jumping up and grabbing my arm to stop me. I shook her off and kept walking to the garage. "Yeah, it's over. Between us, it's over. For a whole year, you treated me like garbage. And why? So you could be with that person. Well, they can have you. No. I love you. It was all a mistake. Last New Year's, I saw you kissing Melinda. I saw her rubbing up against you, and I was so angry, so sure you were seeing her." She dropped to her knees. I started seeing Jimmy just to get back at you. But last week, I ran into Melinda, and she apologized to me. She said she had thrown herself at you, but you pushed her away. She said she was drunk and didn't even realize it was you. She was sobbing so hard she could barely catch her breath. I opened the garage door and started loading the packed suitcases, which had been sitting next to her boxes of decorations, into my car. I didn't know. As soon as I found out, I broke things off with Jimmy. It was all a mistake. Please. You could have talked to me. You could have asked me. But no, your answer was infidelity. Was Jimmy the only one? Or the 50th? I loaded the suitcases into the trunk. Don't answer. I don't care. Our marriage is like your Christmas decorations. Destroyed, crushed, broken. As a last argument to make me stay, she screamed that she loved me that I backed out of the driveway, swerving slightly to run over the head I had moved off the road when we came home. Goodbye, Balthasar. As I drove out of the neighborhood, I thought about how all it cost me was the price of magnetic signs for the van. $500 for 2 Crossman ST-1 automatic BB guns. 2 punks from the basketball court were more than happy to destroy a Christmas scene in exchange for the guns. They used the ladder I left out to reach Santa on the roof, and when they were done, they put it back in the shed. I was a little worried about the BBs hitting my windows, but my share of the insurance payout was worth the extra damage. I'd never have gotten even half the value of that cursed nativity scene in the divorce if it hadn't been destroyed. I should have had them pull out the Halloween junk from the garage and trash it too, but that would have been overkill. And Jimmy loved 69. Of course, he never wrote to me, but I know Maddie. She won't listen to his denials, so he won't be crawling back between her legs again. I figured divorcing her might lead to him ending up in her bed, and I'd end up paying for it. Well, maybe I'll pay alimony. And she'll definitely have other partners, but it won't be that person this year. I didn't buy Maddie a Christmas gift, and I had no plans to. I think my Christmas surprise was more than enough. Thanks to everyone who took the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share your thoughts on the events in the comments below. Take care.